The sun was sinking behind the endless Nevada desert when Victor Hale slowed his black luxury SUV near an abandoned train station.
I knew this would happen.
The place looked forgotten by time, rusted tracks, a broken sign, and a single wooden bench covered in dust. Elena Hale sat in the passenger seat, one hand resting on her pregnant belly, the other gripping her purse. She was 7 months pregnant, tired from the long drive, and confused about why Victor had taken this isolated route. "Why are we stopping here?" she asked softly. Victor didn't look at her. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold. "The engine light came on," he said flatly. "I'll go check it. You should step out and get some air." Elena trusted her husband. After all, Victor was a billionaire, powerful, respected, admired across the United States. She believed that behind the expensive suits and public smiles, there was still the man she married. Slowly, she opened the door and stepped onto the cracked concrete. A warm wind brushed against her face, carrying sand and silence. Victor popped the trunk, walked around the car, and pretended to check under the hood. Then, without warning, he slammed it shut. "I'll drive ahead to find help," he said quickly. "Wait here. I'll be back soon." Before Elena could respond, Victor got into the driver's seat. The engine roared to life. Her heart began to pound. "Victor," she called. The SUV pulled away, faster and faster, until only a cloud of dust remained. Elena stood frozen, staring down the empty road. Minutes passed. Then more. The truth hit her like a wave of ice: he wasn't coming back. Her phone showed no signal. Panic tightened her chest. She tried calling again and again, but the screen stayed silent. The sun disappeared completely, and the desert temperature dropped sharply. Elena slowly sat on the bench, tears streaming down her face. "How could you do this to us?" she whispered, clutching her belly. Memories flooded her mind. Victor growing distant after learning about the pregnancy, his anger over inheritance rumors, his fear that a child would complicate his empire. She had ignored the warning signs, choosing love over doubt. Now she was paying the price. The station felt terrifyingly empty. No cars passed. No lights appeared. Only the sound of wind and the distant cry of animals echoed through the night. Elena removed her light jacket and wrapped it tightly around her stomach. "I won't give up," she murmured to her unborn child. "I promise." She stood up, determined to survive. Whether Victor wanted her gone or not, she refused to die in this forgotten place. Somewhere beyond the darkness, help had to exist. And Elena would fight to find it. Night had fully claimed the desert. The abandoned station was swallowed by darkness, broken only by a pale moon hanging low in the sky. Elena forced herself to walk along the train tracks, each step heavy and painful. Her feet ached, her back burned, and fear pressed down on her chest. Every sound made her flinch: the wind, shifting sand, the distant howl of coyotes. She kept one hand on her belly, whispering comfort to the life growing inside her. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to win. Elena's vision blurred, and her legs trembled. Just as she considered sitting down again, a distant hum reached her ears. At first, she thought it was her imagination. Then headlights appeared on the horizon, cutting through the darkness. A rusty pickup truck slowed as it approached. The engine coughed, and the vehicle stopped a few feet away. Elena froze. A tall man stepped out, wearing worn jeans and a faded jacket. His face was rough, but his eyes were calm. "Ma'am," he said carefully, keeping his distance. "Are you all right?" Elena's voice shook. I was left here. I'm pregnant. I need help." The man's expression changed instantly. Concern replaced caution. "My name's Jack Miller," he said. "I'm a mechanic from Arizona. This road's dangerous at night. You shouldn't be out here." Tears rolled down Elena's cheeks as the strength drained from her body. Jack rushed forward just in time to catch her before she collapsed. He helped her sit on the truck's tailgate and handed her a bottle of water. "Drink slowly," he said gently. "You're safe now." Elena hesitated, then drank. The water felt like life itself. Jack offered her his jacket when he noticed her shivering. Unlike Victor, Jack's movements were careful, respectful, nothing forced, nothing cold. "I can take you to the nearest town," Jack continued. "There's a clinic about 40 miles from here. I won't leave you." Elena studied his face, searching for danger, but found none. With no other option, she nodded. Inside the truck, the heater hummed softly. Elena felt warmth return to her fingers. Jack kept his eyes on the road, not asking questions, not judging. After a long silence, Elena spoke. "My husband did this," she said quietly. "He left me." Jack's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "No man should ever do that," he replied. His voice was firm, filled with anger, but not at her. They drove through the silent desert, the road stretching endlessly ahead. For the first time since being abandoned, Elena allowed herself to breathe. The loneliness that had crushed her earlier began to fade. As dawn approached, the sky turned soft shades of pink and gold. Elena watched the sunrise from the passenger seat, tears filling her eyes, not from fear this time, but from relief. A stranger had stopped when he didn't have to. He had chosen compassion over indifference. Elena didn't know it yet, but this unexpected encounter would rewrite her future, and expose the true meaning of wealth, courage, and humanity. The small-town clinic in southern Utah was quiet when Jack pulled the truck into the parking lot. The building was modest, nothing like the private hospitals Elena was used to, but to her it felt like a sanctuary. Nurses rushed to help as soon as they saw her condition. Elena was placed on a bed, wrapped in warm blankets, while a doctor checked the baby's heartbeat. The steady sound brought tears of relief to her eyes. "You and the baby are stable," the doctor said kindly. "You're lucky someone found you when they did." Elena looked toward the door, where Jack stood awkwardly, unsure if he should stay or leave. "He saved us," she said softly. Jack shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. Anyone would have done the same. But Elena knew that wasn't true. Over the next few days, Elena remained at the clinic for observation. Jack visited every evening after finishing his work at a nearby garage. He brought her simple meals, fresh fruit, and once, a small stuffed bear he'd bought at a gas station. They talked, at first about small things, then slowly about deeper truths. Elena finally told him everything. About Victor's rise as a billionaire in Silicon Valley. About how his love turned cold when the pregnancy threatened his lifestyle and inheritance plans. About the silence, the manipulation, and finally, the abandonment in the desert. Jack listened without interrupting. His jaw tightened, and his eyes darkened with anger, but his voice stayed calm. "Money doesn't make a man," he said. "What he did, that's not power. That's cowardice." When Elena was discharged, Jack insisted she stay with his sister's family in Colorado until she figured out her next steps. They welcomed her without hesitation, giving her a warm room and treating her like family. For the first time in months, Elena slept without fear. Meanwhile, Victor returned to his luxurious life, pretending nothing had happened. But Elena was no longer silent. With Jack's help, she contacted a lawyer. Records were filed, evidence gathered, and timelines reconstructed. The truth began to take shape. Each day, Elena grew stronger, physically and emotionally. She took walks, attended prenatal appointments, and began planning a future she had never imagined. Jack remained by her side, never crossing boundaries, never asking for anything in return. His quiet support spoke louder than any promise Victor had ever made. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun dip behind the mountains, Elena felt the baby kick sharply. "He's strong," she said, smiling for the first time in a long while. Jack smiled back. He gets that from his mother. In that moment, Elena realized something had changed. She was no longer defined by betrayal. The desert had taken her fear, but it had also led her to kindness, resilience, and hope. A storm was coming for Victor Hale. And when it arrived, Elena would be ready, not as a victim, but as a survivor building a new life from the ashes. Snow covered the streets of Denver the morning Elena went into labor. The pain was sharp but steady, and fear tried to creep in, but this time, she wasn't alone. Jack drove through the quiet streets with calm focus, his hands steady on the wheel. At the hospital, nurses moved quickly, guiding Elena into a bright delivery room. Jack stayed by her side, holding her hand when the contractions became unbearable. Hours later, a baby's cry filled the room. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. Tears streamed down Elena's face as she held her son for the first time. In that moment, every night of fear, every mile of desert, and every tear she had shed felt worth surviving. She named him Lucas, a name that meant light. Jack watched quietly, emotion clear in his eyes. He had arrived in her life as a stranger, but now he felt like family. Meanwhile, in California, Victor Hale's carefully built world began to collapse. The legal case moved fast. Surveillance footage, GPS data, and Elena's testimony exposed the truth. Media outlets across the United States picked up the story. Billionaire abandons pregnant wife in desert. Sponsors pulled out. Investors fled. Victor's name, once associated with success, became a symbol of cruelty and betrayal. Court orders froze his assets, and criminal charges followed. When Victor finally stood in a courtroom, his expensive suit could not hide his guilt. He tried to apologize, claiming fear and pressure had driven his actions. Elena listened without emotion. "You didn't leave me because you were afraid," she said firmly. "You left because you thought money made you untouchable." She refused his apologies, and his fortune. Months passed. Elena built a new life in Colorado. She worked remotely, volunteered at a women's shelter, and focused on raising Lucas with love and honesty. Jack remained close, helping with night feedings, doctor visits, and laughter-filled evenings. Their bond grew naturally, no promises, no pressure, just trust. One quiet evening, as Elena watched Jack rock Lucas to sleep, she realized something profound. The man who had nothing compared to Victor's wealth had given her everything Victor never could: safety, dignity, and genuine care. The desert station that once symbolized her abandonment became a distant memory. What remained was strength. Elena had lost a husband, but gained her freedom, her voice, and a future shaped by choice, not fear. Sometimes, heroes don't arrive in luxury cars. Sometimes, they come in rusty pickup trucks, stop when no one else does, and change lives simply by choosing to care. And that choice made all the difference.